two little tiny torque screws here and here, and that hold the fuel temp sensor in. The fuel temp sensor is just this little sensor like that, and it just screws down right here.
Okay, so the orientation of this cover is not important. It just goes on, and
yeah, there's no marking required on this one. So you just put the screws in, hand tighten them. And these are the screws that don't have built-in washers. You use the built-in washer screws down on the bottom. Just tighten them all nice and evenly. You want that gasket to compress evenly.
Triangular screw.
Yeah, the anti-tamper screw right here goes down through both the top cap and the bottom quantity adjuster union.
We're just going to snug it a little bit to keep it from sucking air when we try to prime it. I'm going to go around and do all of them real quick. Just put a light torque on them. These actually you can torque all the way because we don't need to move these ever again. These we might need to move, so light torque.
Would you say it's likely that you're going to have to move the lower union?
Yes.
Okay.
The marks that I made were very rough, and
it's a very fine adjustment on the quantity adjuster.
For some reason, whenever I do this, the car is usually set at about 10 to 12 when I get it back together, and I need to bump it back down to around 3.
3 what?
3 milligrams per stroke.
stroke.
I'm not really sure what that unit is, but
yeah. So we're going to make sure we put the fuel shutoff solenoid wire back on and then tighten it down.
now we can put this bracket back in. So we've got one black screw left, but I don't know where it is. Here it is. Throw that in the trash.
Gonna run the black screw through the bracket.
We have this one 5mm Allen bolt.
Secondary hold down for that little bracket. You can use the T30 Torx to hand thread the 5mm. It's the same general size, just don't use it for tightening it down. Go ahead and tighten down that T30. Switch over to the 5mm. Tighten it pretty good.
Let's pull all these out of here because we don't need them anymore.
And take all the rags back out.
So we did a fairly good job of containing that.
Got one more down there. Power steering pump.
So let's put this connector back. And this little clip along with the line for the oil pressure sensor. Plug it together.
It'll only go one way. There's a rounded end and a flat end. You can see that pretty clearly. So they click. And then slide it back down in its keeper. And then also have one fuel hose up top. I'm going to take the red caps off the injector outlet ports.
If you're working on a Beetle, you really want to pull this vacuum reservoir as well.
It really gets in the way. Golf Jetta doesn't really matter quite as much. Okay. Oops, drop that one.
Injector lines. You want to put the back side on first because you can't get to this lower nut very easily when these lines are in place.
So that's the number 3 and number 4 injector lines first.
Oh, that's the wrong line.
No, it's actually the number 1 and number 2 injector lines.
And the way I do this is just get this little flare seated in its spot, and then I run this down. Otherwise, you're running the risk of
Cross threading it.
putting a weird pinch in that flare and having a leaky line.
It's real important to just hand thread these until you get them completely lined up, because if you put any sort of preload on these lines, they will break.
So what I do is just run a little bit of torque up here because I'm going to have to crack them later to prime.
Okay.
And then tighten these all the way. Might have to come at this one from the bottom to get final torque on it, and as I said, if this line is here, it's really hard to do this.
So you're doing the back ports first, which is the number 1 and number 2 cylinders. 2 closest to the timing belt.
Again, seat the flare.
You're pushing the flare down in the injector before you're threading the kept nut on the injector line. This makes sure that you get it nice and centered and it doesn't have any weird angles on it.
Light torque up there.
Go to town on the ones on the pump head.
I don't know about going to town, but
Well, you know, just get them pretty good.
get them tight. Alright, we can put this guy back in. This is probably its own how-to, but slide it down as far as it'll go.
This is the dipstick collar. If yours breaks, I mean, it's just the way it is. They're not meant to last forever.
And you take a small dead blow hammer, brace it,
And it just goes on
pops right on. Won't come off ever
until it breaks.
until you pull it off.